so often, like a personal story for you. We've had, I mean, I think you've all probably had instances in yoga class where you've had a bit of an emotional release, but you know, my hips externally were quite open because I was a dancer. So when you're a ballet dancer, you spend a lot of time externally rotating the femurs and the hip joints, right? You're standing in parallel position all the time like this, in first position or third position or fifth position. So you're spending a lot of time opening the hips externally. What was really weird and awkward for me was this not even internal rotation, standing parallel, which felt like internal rotation. It felt like adduction, even though it was just creating a parallel position in the hips. So postures like Baddha Konasana, where you're really doing external rotation, felt very comfortable and easy. Things like Paschimottanasana, more difficult, because when you look at standing like this a lot, right, you're tightening up the glutes, the low back muscles are getting tighter to hold this position. And so all the fascia is strengthened in that sort of externally rotated direction. So this was back a long time ago, 20 years ago. I had been practicing for about a year and practicing full primary series, and Baddha Konasana, favorite posture, so good, felt so nice all the time. And then at that time, I was living with my boyfriend, and we broke up. And so I moved out, and it was all very emotional. And so I went to go practice primary series, and I hadn't really been thinking about it. It wasn't, you know, it was just something that was happening on this, you know, in my life. It wasn't like, I didn't really think that I was dwelling on it, or it was sort of like just something going on. I go and practice primary series, I get to Baddha Konasana, and I'm totally stuck. And so my legs will open like this, but I'm like, so here I am, and I'm like, nothing's moving. I can't move at all. It's completely locked, just stuck. And so it was a workshop at the time, and the teacher came, and he pushed me down like this, you know, as you would in a Baddha Konasana adjustment. And it wasn't that I just started crying, like crying. And it wasn't that my body couldn't go there, because my body could very easily go there with someone putting weight on it and pressing on it. I couldn't get there myself. It was completely 100% locked. I absolutely needed someone to push me down. 3 days, every day, crying. And then it was fine. It all was back to normal after that. Right hand down, right at the crease of the hip here, where the leg meets the hip area. And try to rotate the leg. Use your own hand to rotate the leg in the hip as you slowly start to straighten the knee. And then you're going to keep the body open to the side. And you might want to take your left hand and press the sacrum forward here. So this big flat triangular bone, you're going to press forward. So you're turning the right leg out, pressing the sacrum forward. And then you're straightening the right leg, and you're going to reach over in a triangle position. You can keep your left hand on that sacrum, or you can reach it up to the sky. But I want you to only go as far as you can without letting this left hip turn forward. So you want to keep the hips open directly to the sides. You don't want to let this left hip bone rotate down for you to reach further. You might only be able to go as far as your thigh or your knee, or maybe your shin, and breathe here. But you should feel a really deep stretch all through the outside edge of your left hip and into that left side, that left flank. It's really important to get into this outside edge of the hip. Good. Inhale to come up, And then turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. And before you start to move into the side bend, just bend that left leg a little bit. Turn the leg out in the hips. So remember, you can bring the hands right up to the hip joint and just help yourself to feel what it feels like to turn the leg out at the top so that the knee is now lined up in the same direction as the foot. And then keep this right hip bone open. Maybe you want to press the sacrum forward. As you're straightening that left leg, you can then lengthen into a triangle position, but keep this right side in the position that it's in. So don't let it shift. Don't let your bum stick out so that your hip bone can go forward, so that you can feel like you're moving somewhere. I want you to feel the sensation of opening the side of the hip. It's not about touching a toe, and it's not even about how the posture looks. It's about what you're feeling. What are you filling the shape with? What is this position doing for you here? Are you able to feel through the front, a stretch through the front of the right hip and through the side flank? Maybe you want to lift the hand up, maybe not. Good. One more breath, and then inhale to come all the way up. To the hips, place them just where the legs are meeting the hips, and then bend deep into that right hip here. So you're coming into a warrior two position with the right foot turned out, and check that the knee is lined up over the ankle or over the center of the arch. And from here, I want you to press into that right heel and feel a slight clockwise pressure through the heel. So there's a downward pressure and a slight clockwise pressure. You're not moving the foot at all, but it's an intention and it's a pressure. It's a micro movement of energy through the heel. And you'll feel how that opens the inside line of this leg and pulls that right leg back into the hip area. And then keeping this left hip bone open, keeping the left rib cage open, keeping that clockwise pressure through the knee, just bring your elbow down to the knee and check to make sure the knee is again still lining up over the ankle. You can take your left hand and reach it around. Sometimes it's helpful, you can bring the hand to the inner thigh or to that inner hip crease to help turn the leg out from the hip. So you can really feel how that right leg is opening in that hip socket. You can breathe here, you can stay here if you really want to. You can bring the hand down. Let's bring it down to the front of the foot today so that we can keep the knee pressing back. The arm is preventing the knee from rolling in. You can just keep that chest open. If you want to extend the arm, you're welcome to, but you don't have to. Good. Inhale, come all the way up. Whew, turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. These postures are very intense when you really work on them. So bring the hands to the hips. Feel where the legs connect to the hip joint here. And then as you bend deep into that left leg, check that the knee is over the ankle. There's a slight counterclockwise pressure now through that heel. So you're pushing down, and it's like you're trying to take the jar or the lid off of a jar. You know, when it's sticky and tight, you have to kind of push down and rotate. So that rotation is happening in a counterclockwise direction. And then you're keeping the right hip bone open, the right side of the rib cage open. And you can come down, bringing the elbow to the knee. And keep that counterclockwise pressure through the heel. Good. You can reach back with your right hand towards the left thigh or the left hip crease, just putting a little pressure, a downward pressure there through that left thigh. And then if you really want, you can bring the hand down to the front of the foot. So it's helping to keep the knee pressing back And again, also, if you really want, you can extend through the hand. This right foot nice and strong so that you're putting that back pressure through the leg into the knee. And then take your left hand and pull the right thigh out from underneath you so that the whole side of the leg, the IT band, is connected to the floor. And you're keeping this leg at a 90-degree angle. You're leaning kind of back and over to the side, you can see. Then you're going to stretch that left leg back behind you. And then you're just rolling through the hips, dropping your left hip down to the floor and coming forward over the leg. And then relax the head down to the floor, breathing here. And if this is much too easy, if you're like, oh, I could take a nap here, I don't feel any sensation at all, which often sometimes that might happen. And if your left hip is totally forward, so your hip bones are, again, parallel, you can take this the right foot and move it a little bit more into the center line of the body. So it's lined up more with your sternum, and open that angle out a little bit more so it's greater than 90 degrees. And then again, walk the hands forward and bring the head down to the foot. And breathe here. 1. Nice deep breaths. You can stay here for a long time, so you don't really need to feel any rush to move out of this position. Try to really breathe and release. So try to really let go of that density in the hip area and the hip socket. And you want to also release any tension in the shoulders or the neck or any other area of the body, the jaw. Just let your body know that it's safe and it can relax here. It doesn't need to hold tension. Everything's just fine. You're just taking a little rest in a new position. And then we'll come up, because we don't have all day today, and tuck the back foot under and come into downward dog. You can just walk the feet a little. Good. And then come and again sit so that you're horizontal on your mat, and we'll do the other side. So just placing the sole of the right foot on the floor, and now lining up the left shin with the top of the mat so they're parallel, making a 90-degree angle here with the knee, sliding the meaty part or the fleshy part of the hamstring underneath so that the side of the thigh can be flat against the floor, the knee is flat against the floor, the ankle is strongly flexing, and then you're just shifting that right leg back and rolling the hip down and coming forward with the body. Keep dropping that right hip down, releasing the head, the neck, and the shoulders. And just breathing here and feeling that opening. And sometimes the hip's not going to come down, but you'll still feel a nice deep stretch with that external rotation of the leg and the hip. And again, if it's too easy, you can bring the foot into the center line of the body and open that angle up, but you still want to keep the knee connected to the floor here and the outside edge of the thigh connected to the floor. And then you're dropping your right hip down, and same idea, walking forward and relaxing any tension. So we don't want to hold tension in other areas of the body. If we're holding tension in our shoulders or our jaw, our body feels afraid. It feels like something bad is happening to it. So reassure yourself that you can relax here, and really opening tight areas like hip joints is really about letting go. It's about learning how to relax and not doing something. So if you could just hang out in this hip opening position without thinking about it, if you have a book, you could read a book. If you have, your phone, you could scroll on your phone or whatever you want to do, but do something to relax and get your mind off of opening the hip. And the more you can relax and release in a posture like this, the longer you'll stay there, the more things will unwind. Good. So come on up